as this acronym grows longer and longer. But as the next chapters of the textbook are being written now, it's still expanding. No signs of getting shorter. With that in mind, how do LGBTQIA plus people wield political power as a large, if disparate, unit? At some point, will the tent be too big and begin to split? I got the view of somebody who would know. Her name is Maria Sjödin, the Deputy Director of OutRight Action International, an advocacy group, and she just celebrated 20 years in the field. Maria, you have worked for 2 decades in the field of LGBTQIA plus rights. When you think strategically, strength in numbers, what does that mean? Because we've seen it grow.
I mean, I think actually what has grown the most is sort of adding letters to a movement that already contained a lot of those people. So, I mean, if you think about it as in terms of who was at Stonewall, clearly there were trans women at Stonewall. It's just that the language has shifted and people see, I think, also the power of visibility. If we're not named, then can we be it? Like, are we part of it if we're not part of the name? So I actually think that to some outsiders, I think that it looks like we're adding letters, but I think it really has a lot to do with just naming the people who have been part of our movement the whole time. And I think you also have to see this from an international perspective. In our work, we work in so many countries where people, people's first language certainly isn't English. They don't necessarily recognize LGBTIQ as an acronym that's highly relevant for them. And of course, in many cultures, there are specific words for parts of the population. So it's like many people in many countries may not describe themselves as trans or transgender. They have fafafine, they have hijra, they have all kinds of other words that have existed in their language for maybe thousands of years. So I think it's important also to see this acronym as it's an umbrella term. It's never going to accurately describe every single individual's own identity.
Do you think policymakers are more apt to listen to a group that comes in with saying, we are representing this big, long string of people who could be in your constituency? Or does that not really matter to them?
I think it really depends. It depends on sort of their understanding of the issues. I think in some cases, and we have seen this, and I know many examples from different countries, where policymakers are like, well, fine, we can prohibit discrimination on the basis of sexual orientation, but this gender identity or gender expression you're talking about, we don't understand it, so we're not going to go there. And so I think it's very important as a movement to say, well, you have to be inclusive, you have to protect all of us. And actually, it's not that hard to learn. It's like we have to push back on policymakers when they want to simplify things and make it too simple. I think there are so many similarities between the oppression and discrimination that we face that, to me, it makes a lot of sense to work together on the issues where it makes sense to work together. We don't necessarily have to work together on everything. I think parts of the movement can have separate spaces too. But I think for the most part, we are stronger if we work together.
Maria, thank you.
Thank you so much.
I also asked if things could break apart if it got too big one day, and she said no, she doesn't see that happening. Quick break. Then, scientists say climate change is real. It's happening right now. With that in mind, the plea one young activist traveled halfway around the world to make here in person today.
Are there problems associated with oil and gas? Certainly. But our country